Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
I am very much ready for rapid fire today, Sean Stiers. Got some good ones in here, and a little lean toward basketball with a couple of these. Okay, let's roll here.
Yep, got a little basketball in there with some basketball news this weekend. Excuse me, got some football as well. And for everyone in the chat right now, if you got a question or two, just throw it in, or you can just save it for the mailbag show tomorrow. You can do that. You're tomorrow as well, right?
Yes, I am.
That's what
I
thought.
I am.
That's what I thought.
I'm like a Tuesday, Wednesday guy now for a while.
Yeah.
So, let's roll.
Fill in the blank. The Notre Dame football player who surprised you the most last season was blank.
I had to really kind of think about this one, and the reason is because I feel like we talk about Notre Dame football all year long, right? And it's hard for a guy to sneak up on us. Of course, but it's hard for a guy to sneak up on you. You know what I mean? And so I kind of had to think about this one. This is what I decided. You tell me what you think.
Okay.
Aamil Wagner.
Okay.
And the reason I'm saying Aamil Wagner is he was the weakness, quote unquote, of the offensive line going into fall camp last year. And he was, can he put on enough weight? Can he be this? Can he be that? And he ended up being the most steady guy on the offensive line the entire season, mainly because he never got injured. But now he's starting to garner some preseason All-America looks. He's on a lot of watch lists. He's on all these different things because he does the one thing that you need to do. If you're a coach, there's one thing you want your player to do. It's show up and play every day. Yep. And I'm not blaming a player for getting hurt or anything like that.
And go unnoticed if you're an offensive lineman.
I mean, he basically went unnoticed all year long. And so I got to give him a lot of credit, man. He is now a staple of this offensive line, this returning offensive line, who everybody thinks is going to be one of the better ones in college football. He's a big reason for it. So Aamil Wagner's my guy.
I think that's a really good one. For all the reasons that you stated. First-time starter. We didn't really know what to expect from him. And then the thing comes up at the left tackle, obviously, and it's like, what are they going to get out of this line? And he turned out to be pretty much steady Eddie. Played the most snaps of anybody on the entire offense and ended up being, like if you look at PFF grades, and I know that, there's maybe some grain of salt you can take with it, but a grade is a grade, and he graded out higher than any of the other offensive linemen. He's, I think when it all came through the wash, he was like the fifth highest graded overall player on the offensive side of the ball. So I think that is a really good one. And honestly, that's what I thought my answer was going to be, because I thought that you were going to go with Leonard Moore on the other side of the ball. And Joe said Leonard Moore. So I'll just make the case for Leonard Moore as well, because I think if you were doing offense and defense, these would probably be the two guys, right? Because coming into this season, what were we expecting from Leonard Moore?
Zero.
Nothing.
Zero.
We thought we were going to have Benjamin Morrison and Christian Gray out there.
Right. Yeah, he was the future. He wasn't the present.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And by the time it was all said and done, he turned into a freshman All-American and Notre Dame's best, from where he started playing in the season, from that point on, he was their most consistent cornerback. So I'll just make the case and throw Leonard Moore's name into the hat.
I think that's a really good one. Because there's always going to be somebody that's going to come out of nowhere. And I think, if you're, a recruiting beatnik and you really follow that stuff closely, and, Leonard Moore was a highly touted guy coming in, but he wasn't, I don't believe he was a 5-star. I don't believe he was considered the best player in the class or anything like that. And so he just kind of did his thing, and he was kind of that third guy. And like I said, he was the future, not the present. And
really good out of high school. Yeah. Really good out of high school, but not so elite that like Sly Fox is saying, he's like, I think depending on which service, it was like, like high 3, low 4,
like a composite
type
3
star.
Whatever.
And this was like the classic Mike Mickens looked at this guy and saw things that played to what Mike Mickens is looking for in a cornerback, and it ended up playing out on the field. And I think that there's been a lot of those guys over the years that Mike Mickens has laid his eyes on and saw and turned out to be pretty good. Go back to Sauce Gardner at Cincinnati.
Yeah, no doubt. So, I mean, his track record is ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. I mean, he has been able to just pinpoint and find guys that fit what he wants and what he wants to operate with, and just, I mean, turn them into NFL draft picks. I mean, that's anybody that's a corner. How can you not look at what he has done and think to yourself, why would I not go to Notre Dame? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a defensive back, why are you choosing anywhere else to go? If that's who, if you're looking at being, coached and developed and have a chance to win a national championship, why would you go anywhere else? I don't know the answer to that. So yeah, he is the present and the future now. And it's very exciting. There's no doubt about that. It's very exciting.
I think so as well. Yep. Fill in the blank. The biggest surprise player for the Irish this season will be blank.
I'm going to let you answer this one first, since I technically stole yours before. So I want to give you a first shot, though. You always give me first shot. I want to give you first shot.
I'm going to go with Anthonie Knapp, because I feel like Anthonie Knapp is a guy, like, some people are on Anthonie Knapp, but he is, in terms of players on the current roster, like, Steve Angeli is gone now. So I think that this now is the most polarizing guy on the roster. Like, we've talked about this before. I think that if you graded Anthonie Knapp on the curve for his freshman season, you would say, yes, he had a good season. But, like, he was the lowest graded pass blocker on the offensive line, and that is pretty important in a left tackle. But what you hope for now, and not even what you hope for, what you have to have now is, after being thrown into the fire as a true freshman at left tackle and playing all but the last game of the season, what you have to have now is Anthonie Knapp step up and not just be graded on the curve, but be the guy, basically. Yeah. Be the guy, anchor that left side of the offensive line. Now, as we've talked about, when Schrouth came, when he moved over to the left and he was playing at left guard late in the season, Anthonie Knapp's play improved. So maybe that helps him this year, because it sure seems like those are going to be the two guys on that side of the line. So I'll say Anthonie Knapp surprises the remaining doubters and really steps up his play, elevates his play, because there's no more, well, he's a freshman now. Sure. You've got that full season plus of experience. You basically got, like, what, a season and a quarter of experience for the run that they had last year. So I'll say Anthonie Knapp is going to surprise the doubters that he has this year.
This is a tough one, man. I hate projecting and guessing and all.
You don't want someone pulling up the video 4 months from now and saying,
every time,
"Here you go, Vince. What happened there?" Yeah,
happens every time. You know what? I'm gonna take a flyer here. I'm gonna go Carson Hobbs. I'm gonna take the route.
Okay.
I'm gonna take the route of the third corner. Kind of a versatile kid who flashed in the spring, has an opportunity to, get some good minutes down. I know Devontae, I think, is probably going to end up being the nickel, it sounds like. But you never know, right? And you never know with injuries, and you never know with all of these different things. And so I think Carson Hobbs has an opportunity to do something this year in a reserve role. But you never know. He might have to step in and do something, and could be the next Leonard Moore. I don't know. So I'm going to go Carson Hobbs.
All right. I like that. Toonses says the video saying KVA wouldn't play last
Nobody
year.
said he wouldn't.
Did you say that?
No,
I don't
never
remember you saying that.
I never said it. I said he wouldn't
I think you
start.
Were, yeah, I said he. I know. I said he on.
Listen,
yeah.
I said he wouldn't start, and he didn't. So I feel pretty solid about that. First of all, I never said he wouldn't play at all. Come on now, I'm not an idiot. But yeah, I never said that. I'm unless you can produce a video where I said he's never going to play. I don't think I ever said that.
I'm really curious, like Mark is saying, will be interesting to see how well Mickens develops the corners playing more zone. I think that some people are like reading too much into they practiced more zone this spring.
Right.
I think that is basically going to be a change up. Like, as we've talked about, they got to the national championship game against a team that thrived on man-to-man defense, and Notre Dame found itself in a place where it needed to be able to play more zone, more consistently better. And they were just such a heavy man-to-man team that was not a place that they could go to. So it feels to me like I don't think they're all of a sudden going to be, a much more zone heavy team. I just feel like you're going to see them practicing more zone so they have that gear to go to when they need to go there. Is that kind of how you feel about it? Or, think it's
absolutely.
Go?
I think that spring is to practice things that you haven't practiced and that you haven't done a lot, and they hadn't done a bunch of it. And so it looks heavy because it's spring. That's going to be dialed way back, I think, when we get to fall camp and they start, doing what they're going to be doing more in the season, in season. And we're not going to see any of it, so it doesn't really matter. But you're going to see a lot less zone, in my opinion. And that's okay. Like they're going to have that, like you said, as a change of pace, as something else that they can go to. And the percentage will start to balance out maybe a little bit more from man to zone and all of those different things. But it's not going to like they're going to abandon man. That's not going to happen.
Against the teams with the better receivers, which honestly right now there aren't that many on the schedule. I think that's, it's most likely going to, become playoff time. But against those kind of teams, i.e. Ohio State, you're going to need to play more zone. But, look, they found out, like, look at Penn State, look at Texas A&M as an example, look at Indiana, all those different teams. Notre Dame felt confident they could man up with anybody, and with good reason.
And they've shown it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've shown to be able to man up with the best. So, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Yep. As Vince teased, a little basketball in here. Micah Shrewsberry has the number 8 recruiting class in the nation entering school this year. They're on campus right now for summer school as they get started with their summer practices. He also just picked up a pair of commitments from a couple top 100 players for the 26 class we talked about on yesterday's show. So, Vince, scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that Shrewsberry's Irish will be in the NCAA tournament within the next 2 years?
I mean, he's doing all the right things on the recruiting trail and bringing guys in. I think he's doing a really good job with that. It's basketball, so it's different than football, obviously. But like you don't need as many impact players to make an impact, and especially the young players, and so I'm a little apprehensive pinning all the hopes and dreams of this basketball team on an incoming freshman class. I remember doing that with Mike Bray when he brought in that one class probably a decade ago now or more. You know which one I'm talking about. It was this huge class. It was like, oh, this is the class, and it just never really materialized. You know what I mean? And I feel like I don't want that obviously to be the case. I think Micah Shrewsberry is a good coach. I think he is a good person. I want him to be successful at Notre Dame. I just have a hard time pinning the hopes and dreams on a recruiting class. But you're giving me a 2-year window here, which I appreciate. And so I'm going to give it like a 7 because I think the odds are better than 50-50, which would be a 5. And so I'm going to ratchet it up to a 7 because we're just talking about making the tournament. They're still in the ACC. They're still in a league that may have been down, but they still get respect. And so if you can get yourself into the top half of the ACC, you got a chance to get into the tournament. So that is very beneficial as well. I think Notre Dame has the opportunity to do that. So I'm going to give them a 7 over a 2-year span.
Yeah, and that was the class that had like Nate Laszewski in it, Dane Goodwin, Robbie Carmody, those kind of guys. And the difference was, like Rex Pfluger and Prentice Hub were probably like the two best veterans on the team. And the reason I think that it can be different this year is because you have Marcus Burton, who should enter the year as one of the favorites to win Conference Player of the Year going into his junior season. You also have Braden Shrewsberry, who, just like Burton, has been around the block now. It's kind of crazy that these guys are going into their junior seasons at this point, because they obviously came in the door with Shrewsberry. So I think that there's a better mix of veteran presence in addition to some studs in this freshman class. And you're not going to have to really lean on these freshmen in the same way that you had to lean on that group. And now I think that honestly, this group of freshmen is going to be better than that group of, they were all like those guys, the ones that you're talking about, Leshewski and Carmen, like that, like obviously you had some injuries in there that impacted some of those guys. But I feel like one of the things that always bugged me about that class, for what they were supposed to be, they really lacked athleticism. They really lacked explosiveness and that kind of stuff. And like when you look at these guys who are coming in, there's going to be a lot more of that. So I'm pretty confident that, again, I'm giving it a 2-year window.
Yeah.
So I'm going 8.
Okay, you're a little higher than me. All right.
They will be in the tournament within the next 2 years.
Just trying to temper my expectations a little bit.
I got you. Yeah. I got you. Not wanting to build it up too high.
And I caught the tail end of what Simeone was saying, and that injury to Marcus Burton just really set this club back this past year. Like I thought they would be a bubble team this year. I thought they had the opportunity to be a bubble team, and him getting hurt and missing those 4 games was it was a backbreaker. And they just never really recovered from that. And that's what happens when you build your entire roster on one guy. You know what I mean? And so that's why he's going to need some help. And so can this freshman class be that help? That's the biggest question mark. And I feel more confident about it in year 2. If Marcus Burton comes back for his senior year, which I think is debatable, but I feel better about it in year 2 than I do in year 1, because that freshman class will then be sophomores and probably have a bunch of minutes under their belt. So if you would have given it to me this year, I'd say it's a 50-50 shot. You know what I mean? But in 2 years, I give it better than 50-50.
Okay. I think that's fair.
I hope they can do it this year. There's nothing more fun than going to the Joyce and cheering on a good team. A team that is a better than average chance to win every game. You know what I mean? Like, that's why it's fun to go to the women's games. But men's games have been a little not that way.
Right.
So,
I mean, like, this Jalen Harrelson is supposed to be a dude, like part of this class that's coming in right now. The Lalu guy. And, we talked like these 2 guys who committed over the weekend and yesterday are both Lalu guys as well. Lalumiere. Is that how you say it?
No, Lalamere.
Lalamere. I knew that. I think I said it right yesterday. But for some reason, it wasn't registering.
You got messed up in your head, man.
It tripped off. Yeah, it tripped off the tongue wrong. And Swandong says, what is he actually doing with these classes, though? Talking about Shrewsberry. Well, I mean, like, again, as I was talking about, I don't know if you were here, Swandong, when, at the end of the interview that we just had a little bit ago with Tony Simeone, who's the radio voice of Notre Dame men's basketball. Like, he had to cobble together a team his first year coming in. So it's not like he had a highly touted recruiting class that year. He had Marcus Burton, but it's like,
but he wasn't a highly touted.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The expectation on Marcus Burton, like, he has outperformed what was expected of him coming in the door. He's been great.
Big time.
Yeah.
He was great at the NIC, the Northern Indiana Conference, which is the high school conference in this area. He was great. He dominated, right?
Yeah.
This is not high-level basketball, though, either. You know what I mean? And I can almost look him in the eye. You know what I mean? So, like, he does not real tall. He's just gritty, man. He's just gritty. He's a great player. We've all seen it, right, over the last couple of years. Nobody thought that was – like, we figured he would have to go to college, kind of, get a little bigger, like in the weight room and, do all the things that you need to do to become a collegiate basketball player in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Mm-hmm.
And he just surprised everybody, and probably including himself, and if he was in an honest moment, you know what I mean? But
yes.
The kid plays a lot of confidence, and he's fun to watch. But yeah, he was a revelation his freshman year.
And Swan Dong, it's okay that you weren't here. I was just like, we touched on it. That's why I was saying, I didn't know if you kind of heard us talk about it. But my point is, like, Shrewsberry, what he inherited with the roster, there was not much there. And he has had to, he had to throw it together from day one. And then you have the transfer portal. And, they haven't really been able to get those big impact type transfers out of the transfer portal. They've done okay, but they've been, it feels like more role guys than anything. And when you don't have, like, he's got the number 8 recruiting class in the country now. This is the first highly touted recruiting class that he has had. And it's also, by the way, the highest rated ever recruiting class that the Notre Dame men's basketball program has had. So, like, let's be honest, there's a lot of expectation on these incoming guys, but they're also already off to a good start next year with another good point guard, and like a top 50 point guard in the country, top 50 player who happens to be a point guard, and a 7-footer that they got a commitment from. So
yeah,
I think they're like, these last 2 classes, it's rolling. So, like, really, would you have liked to have seen a little bit more improvement last year from year 1 to year 2? Sure. But Marcus Burton was also out for a good chunk of the season, and there was some impact there as well. So really, like, to me, it not it starts right here, but it's really, I think the evaluation gets a little bit more intense from what happens from this point on for me. And so from that aspect, Vince, when you look at this year, do they need to be in the NCAA tournament?
Oh man, they got to be in the conversation. I'm not saying they have to be in the tournament, but they have to be in the conversation in February. You know what I mean? And I'm talking like late February. They need to be in the conversation. It needs to be, hey, if they do this and this, and nothing, out of the ordinary, nothing extraordinary. Like, if they can do this and this, they're going to be in. If they do this and this, they're going to be on the bubble. Like, they need to be in that conversation. It can't be, well, if you get an NIT invitation, do you go? Like, it can't be that conversation, I don't think. I think it needs to be, hey, this team has a great chance, of getting into the NCAA tournament if they win a game or two, in the ACC tournament, or they're kind of a lock going in, kind of a deal. But I think they need to be in the conversation. We need to be talking about this team making the tournament in February, which hasn't been the case for a long time.
I agree. They need to be, they at the very least, because when the projections start coming out, and the bubble watch and all that different kind of stuff, they need to be, as we're getting there in February, like when Joe Leonard goes on ESPN and he's publishing his stuff every week and he's going on the shows and and they're talking about it. They need to be right square in the middle of the conversation, even if it's like first 4 in, or first 4 in, last 4 out, that kind of stuff. They need to be in that conversation with an opportunity to, at the very least, play themselves into the tournament, kind of like what you were saying, pick up a couple wins at the ACC tournament, that kind of thing.
Just to seal it, or, let's put up that blind resume against another blind. Like, I want them in the conversation. You know what I mean? How many RPI, whatever, certain people love talking about the different tiers of wins and all of those different things. But, like, I want to see Notre Dame's blind resume against other people's blind resume and people picking Notre Dame. Like, that's where this team, I think, needs to be this season. And then the next season, you make a run at it. By make a run at it, I mean, you are a viable member of the ACC. You know what I mean? Where the Joy Center is a tough place to come and play, and you go get some victories on the road. You steal a couple on the road. Those kind of things. Like, that's where this program needs to get to. I'm not saying Notre Dame needs to be a national championship contender every year. It's not the football program. And I think that's a higher hill to climb in basketball than it is in football. We can have that conversation some other time, but they need to be a team that it's tough to play here, you know. Man, I hate going to South Bend. It's tough to play there, you know. And it's a scrappy team on the road.
That's the kind of stuff that really needs to start this year, because there's been so much inconsistency, and obviously we've had the rants from Shrewsberry. He's talked about it. It bugs him, and it would bug any coach, you know, to get the lapses in intensity and effort and all that different kind of stuff. That's really the thing that we need to see more consistently now going forward from Shrewsberry's team is that just the consistent effort, the consistent energy, like regardless of what the talent level is. Like you said, you go into Purcell Pavilion, you know that you're going to be in for a dogfight anytime you play a Micah Shrewsberry Notre Dame men's basketball team. That's like the basic thing that I think we need to see this year.
Right. Yep. Agreed.
All right, let's go to Florida State. We're going to guess an over/under season win total for the Seminoles.
Oh boy, this could go anywhere.
I know. I thought that this would be an interesting team to do based on what happened with them last year. Jesse came up with an interesting way to kind of score it as we go through the schedule yesterday. We can either go, that's a win, or that's a maybe, or we can just say that's a definite loss.
Okay.
As well. I think the win and the maybe are the easiest way to do it, with the exception of probably they open the season against Alabama.
So is the maybe like a half a game? Like, or, you know.
Well, then you just go back at the end and go, okay, how many wins did we get?
Oh, I see. Okay.
We don't have to do it that way.
Oh, hey, whatever.
It made sense. It made sense. And then we outthought ourselves when it came time to picking.
What'd you do yesterday?
We did. Oh, man, who did we do yesterday? Texas.
Oh.
We did Texas. And
they got to be about 10.5.
We both guessed 10.5. They turned out 9.5.
Really?
Is the line. Yep.
Huh. Okay.
But it's 9.5, but the odds were like minus 176. So like they're just suckering everybody with those odds on the over. So okay. So Florida State opens against Alabama.
Yeah, that's a loss.
That's a loss.
I feel very confident in that.
East Texas A&M, which I did not even know existed. If they can't beat them, it's going to be a long season.
Yeah, they don't even have a logo on the site that I'm looking at, so that's a win.
Kent State.
Should be a win.
Should be a win.
The Golden Flashes.
At Virginia.
I feel like that should be a win.
I think so too.
Should be. And again, this isn't last year's Florida State, hopefully, but I feel like that should be a win.
Yeah. Miami, I put that a maybe.
Oh, okay.
Well, let's just call them maybes, okay?
Oh, instead of losses? Okay.
Yeah, let's just do that. So we're not necessarily saying.
I'm not going to disparage how bad Florida State could be. Okay, got it.
Pittsburgh, maybe.
People are out there on Pittsburgh, so I don't know.
The hesitation in your voice says we should at least call it a maybe.
All right, fair enough.
I think. Stanford,
win.
I'll give them a W. Wake Forest
should be a W.
Clemson's a loss, but for this we'll put it in the maybe just to say, you know. Virginia Tech, I think it's a maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a maybe as well.
NC State,
that's a maybe.
It's a maybe. Florida,
man, that's also a maybe.
Yeah, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins without the maybes. So that's Andre may have it. 4.5.
You know, I'll be optimistic for Seminole Nation, and I'll say 5.5.
That's kind of the way I'm leaning.
5.5. You know, if you got a chance to be bowl eligible, and frankly, I know that's not what Florida State fans would want to hear. But if you're bowl eligible after the season that you had last year, that's a step in the right direction.
I think so. I'm going to go 5.5 as well.
Okay.
Toonsis says 6.5. Andre says 4.5. Vince and I are going 5.5. And the Florida State over/under win total is, oh my gosh, 7.5.
Oh, pound the under, folks.
And listen to the odds that they're giving. The over has plus 186 odds. So they're not even, there's no way that team is winning 8 games.
No chance.
There's no way. The under is minus 235.
If anybody's taking that,
why is this even a line?
Yeah, that shouldn't even be a line because
this
it's so
line
lopsided.
Should be 6.5 with
at least. That's awful.
Wow. Go figure.
Well, they're trying to get play, obviously.
I guess if they end up winning 8 games when it's all said and done, we can all eat our words. But I just don't see 8 wins for them.
I don't know where they're going to get 8 on that schedule.
There's no way they're only losing 4 games. They play Alabama and Clemson and Florida to begin with. That's 3 right there. Miami probably 4, which best case scenario puts you at 8. And there's no way they're winning every toss-up game with Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, and NC State. Or even, there's just, I don't see it. I don't see it.
Wild.
Shocking.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah. All right, interesting college football TV news this week. ESPN is reportedly finalizing a deal to sublicense one college football playoff semifinal game per year to TNT, in addition to the first-round TNT games that they already had. TNT would broadcast one CFP semifinal per year in 2026, 2027, 2028. You in or out on TNT getting playoff semifinal games, Vince?
I mean, ESPN or ABC has all the rest of the games, right? So, a little change of pace, I guess, may not hurt in this particular setting. I just think TNT is such a weird conglomeration to go to. Like, how are they next in line? I realize it's bidding and money and all of those different things, but you would think it would be an NBC or a CBS or
a
Fox. Yeah, exactly. Like, where's TNT coming from? Like, here's what I don't like. So I realize that most of the games are on ESPN, and if that's the case, if you don't have cable, you're out of luck. Personally, I would rather have it go to an air channel so that more people could watch.
Yeah.
But so I guess I'm out on TNT getting a CFP semifinal, but I would also be out on ESPN having all of them as well. Like, they should be on ABC. You know what I mean? And some of them are simulcast. I get that, but I don't know. I just don't like it being on cable. That's me.
I agree. Joe says depends on the announcers in the presentation, and that will be a question who exactly they'll get. Josh says TNT is CBS. Well, they're all owned by Warner Brothers Discovery, but there's but
then put it on CBS.
It's not going to CBS.
Right.
It's going, to your point, it's going to TNT. Yeah. So they're owned by the same parent company, but the difference is CBS is not going to be part of this. It's specifically going to TNT, just like last year on cable. And that's I think that you're kind of, cutting off your nose to spite your face a little bit by doing it that way. Like you said, rather than it is odd that TNT is trying to be such a player in this whole thing rather than like a Fox specifically, unless ESPN just doesn't want to deal with Fox and they would rather see it just go to TNT. But I haven't seen any monetary, in terms of what TNT is going to pay them to do it. They're going to have to pay a pretty good chunk of money, I would think, to give up a semifinal game, though.
I think if they're going to do this to really guarantee they get some eyes on the product, you need to get Charles Barkley and his crew to be the studio analysts for the game.
Well, and I think this is part of the deal as well, because TNT is losing the NBA next year. They are trying to go they're going to have more college football during the regular season next year. So that'll be.
I get that. Yeah. So
they're trying to go down that road a little bit more.
What kind of crew are they going to have? What kind of in studio analysis are they going to have?
Right.
But
that's a good point. Just put Charles Barkley and Shaq and Smith and just let him analyze anything.
And just let him say stupid stuff. I will tune in for that. That's where I want to be. When you go down the rabbit hole of scrolling reels or whatever, the little videos online, I don't know how many I've seen recently are top 5 dumb things Shaq has said, or something along those lines.
Even my wife is watching Shaq videos these days, and she's sending them to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I guess I pine for the old days of things being on the network stations. You know what I mean?
I don't disagree with that.
That's me being old. What can I say?
Okay. It's okay. I think a lot of people are in that same boat. There's a report that ESPN could boot Doris Burke from its #1 NBA booth next year. That includes Mike Breen as the play-by-play guy and Richard Jefferson as the other analyst along with Burke. It's not certain that she'll be replaced or if they'll go with just 2 people in the booth, although it seems like they're leaning toward 3, which is like more and more. That's the way it seems to be going. Do you buy or sell the 3-person broadcast TV booths, Vince?
It's a huge sell for me. That's too many voices. That's too many people in one booth. And I realize when you have 2 men and a woman, it's easy to tell who is who and all of those different. I get that. It's just too many. It's too many opinions. It's too many voices. Like that's what the studio is for. That's what the halftime analysis is for. You don't need that many voices on the play-by-play of a game, play-by-play in color. There's 1 and 1, and that's it. And there's nothing better than when you have a great relationship between the play-by-play and the color guy, and they just go back and forth, and you have a great call of a game. I mean, obviously, you can do a 3-man booth. Obviously, it's saying 3-man, 3-person booth, whatever. You can do it. It has to just be done very carefully and very nuanced. And all 3 of those people have to, you can feel when it's your turn to talk. When there's 3 people, that's a lot harder.
And that's the problem with this booth is they don't seem to it's the first year they've been together for one thing. So there's that. But there's just, you're at this point in the season, you're at the end of the season in the NBA finals. And the chemistry just doesn't seem like it there. Like they don't know when to talk, that's an issue.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
But to me, if I'm doing a hierarchy or a ranking of sports where a 3-person booth makes sense and where it doesn't, basketball and hockey are at the bottom of the list in terms of the major sports because of the fact that it is so fast paced. I just don't think you need a 3rd person. I think that what these networks do a lot of times is it's a bit of a crutch where you have some inexperience. So you figure, well, they don't have that much experience, so we'll just make it a 3-person booth and they'll figure it out. They can talk a little here, they can talk a little here. And again, especially in basketball, it doesn't make sense because there's so much action. And it's you see it during the NCAA tournament where they throw together these 3-person booths. And it doesn't make sense, especially in basketball to me. Yeah. Top of the list is baseball because the pace is so different. And you can actually
have a
carry on a conversation and you've got the video there in front of you, so you're not worried about, who's saying what.
Yeah, I still feel like 3 is too many, even for baseball, but it's more manageable in baseball because it's not like basketball. It's not like hockey. It's not, it's not like football, for example. The pace is just different, and there is way more window for conversation and things like that. So you can do 3 for baseball. I still don't like it. I still like 2. 2 is more than enough. I mean, you used to do baseball solo. You know what I mean? Which, by the way, very difficult to do, obviously. But 2 is a luxury for you. 2 is a luxury for you. You know what I mean? You're talking about a 3rd person in the booth.
That's right. That's right.
2's company, 3's a crowd, man. Yeah. That's too much.
I agree. In general, I agree. Which, again, with the football, I think is the next after it falls in between, and it still has to be the right people though, because in general, I don't want it, but arguably the greatest booth in the history of any sport is the 1970s. I think it went into the early 80s, so you probably don't remember it. The Monday Night Football booth with Howard Cosell, Frank Gifford, and Dandy Don Meredith. There was, you had, the Hick Meredith, with his jokes and his, corn pone stuff, and Howard Cosell, who was so full of himself, and, Gifford trying to play it down the middle. But it was great. It was great entertainment. It's arguably the best booth ever. But it's you just Monday Night Football has never been able to replicate.
They've tried.
That. And again, it comes down to the chemistry, right? If you and Jesse and I did a 3-person booth, if we were asked to go do 3 people in a booth, I think we'd be just fine.
Yeah. Agreed.
But it's also radio. and that we would most likely be doing. And as TD4ND says, like, I can't disagree with you. Radio has the best announcers. TD.
Not wrong.
Like, not going to hear me disagree there.
Not wrong.
Dennis Miller.
Oh, oof, that was awful.
The Dennis Miller, Tony Kornheiser days.
Oh,
man,
that was hard to listen to.
They tried some things.
And I was a kid, I believe, when Dennis Miller, when they tried to put him in, I think I was a teenager. I can't remember the years it was. But even then, I remember thinking, this is awful. Like he kept trying. He was trying so hard. He would have all these like pre-written jokes and all these different things. It was like, dude, just stop. Just stop, man.
Yeah. Ugh. Too much. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today.
There you go.
Zipped right through it. Thanks again to Tony Simeone for jumping on earlier today. Good stuff from him. Speaking of radio voices, the radio voice of Notre Dame football and men's basketball. We will have our mailbag show tomorrow. As always, we're already heading towards Wednesday, so that's very exciting. Everyone's got to be happy about that. So
yeah,
let me make sure that I'm not missing anything here. I don't think that I am. Nope. So there you go. That is right, TD. Hit that thumbs up before you leave. We do appreciate it. And we will talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.